I would tell anybody that's listening to this, and you'll know this, you need to guard your hearing jealously, because once it's gone, it's not coming back. And if an injury, which tinnitus is an injury to the inner ear canal, that auditory nerve is injured, and what you're hearing is a residual sound. That sound is coming from that injury.
You are now listening to the podcast where authors inspire listeners to become authors, the Going North Podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer, best-selling author, and book enthusiast, DomBrightmon. And you're going to be listening to a different author that will inspire you to join the business of immortality, known as authorship. Now let the fun begin. Today's episode is sponsored by both books, Going North, Tips and Techniques to Advance Yourself, and the follow-up bestseller, Stay the Course, The Elite Performer's 7 Secret Keys to Sustainable Success. Head over to Amazon.com, pick up both books. They are available in a trifecta of paperback, audio, and ebook. Cop all three of both and be on the lookout for another book from yours truly to help podcasters succeed. Now let's get on with today's episode. And today on the highlight reel builder for authors known as the Going North Podcast, we got another super special, awesome human for you today. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. And you're going to be in for a treat that's good enough to eat 5 times over indeed, because we got a veteran in the house, baby. A U.S. Army veteran, as well as a father, husband, serial entrepreneur, and one of his businesses that he's proudly promoting today because of its super special awesomeness to help you feel like you're doing 20 yoga poses at once. The wonderful Melody Clouds. Let's give it up for the WA, the wonderful and amazing Wayne Altman. How you doing today, Wayne?
Oh, man, that is the greatest introduction I have ever received. Thank you, man. Yeah, I'm doing great.
Heck yeah, man, because it's like the pre the pre podcast conversation was so hilarious and heartwarming, I guess, in a way. It was like, all right, cool, I'm even in better mood after this. And I got a good laugh from that one. It's like, oh yeah, oh yes indeed, that Army training paid off.
Yeah. I enjoyed every minute of that. And I do think that that has something to do with the way I approach things, to be honest with you.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Wait, the good news is introductions, no matter how good they are, aren't allowed to be 37 days, 97 years long. I probably only covered, 97 minutes. So mind filling in any cavities I may have missed about you, Wayne, since it's your first time on the podcast.
Well, like you said, I've spent 8.5 years in the U.S. Army. Melody Clouds actually came to be from experiences that I kind of accumulated over time in the military. I suffer from a condition called tinnitus or tinnitus. It's a ringing in the ear. And in my case, it is very loud and it is very annoying. And about a year ago, a little over a year ago, a very good friend of mine and I were having a conversation, and he said, I want to play a couple tracks of music for you, because he also suffers from tinnitus. And so I said, I kind of know this guy. He's a little woo-woo, if you know what I'm saying. The chakras and the incense and all kinds of, very, very mellow Zen guy. And so I got a little bit nervous, to be honest with you, because that's the opposite of me. I'm not a very woo-woo guy. He played the first tone or first track of music, and really, I noticed nothing. He played the second, and again, really no help. But that third track gave me something I hadn't experienced in 30 years before that, and that was silence. It completely counteracted the ringing in my head, and I have used that track of music almost every single day since then. 4 days after I first experienced it, I had purchased the domain Melody Clouds because I had determined that I was going to bring this to as many people as I possibly could. And later did I start learning about the other things that binaural beats, that's what he showed me, was a binaural beat. I started learning about all of the other very powerful things binaural beats can do for people like you and I.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. And that's definitely huge, indeed, because that's kind of been back in my mind, one of my fears in recent history, possibly getting tinnitus from all the darn headphone stuff I got going on and from doing all this podcast editing over the years. And that could be a big issue down the road for a lot of people who love those AirPods and other things. So it's like, it's kind of like you're getting
100%.
yeah, it's like you're getting ahead of the game on that, man, because I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure a lot of folks have been needing it.
Right. Well, look, you're right. The vast majority of the people that come to me are dentists, believe it or not, dentists because of the drills,
Mhm.
musicians because they tend to practice in very small places and they practice with no ear protection. I would tell anybody that's listening to this, and you'll know this, you need to guard your hearing jealously because once it's gone, it's not coming back. And if an injury, which tinnitus is an injury to the inner ear canal, that auditory nerve is injured, and what you're hearing is a residual sound. That sound is coming from that injury. And there's no cure for it right now, but there are treatments that you can do to lessen what it is you're experiencing. So, and I'll mention one other thing. There have been people, very important, very influential people in business and whatnot, who have actually taken their own life because of that noise, because of that tinnitus, has just ruined their quality of life. So I
Mm.
knew pretty quickly, I've got to step in here and offer some of this to my fellow veterans, to other people that, maybe they didn't serve, but, they've injured their ears some other way. And, so far, so good.
Yeah, indeed. And it's good that you're doing that too. And that's kind of scary, the fact that it's like, seems like as time goes on, folks are finding more ways to sadly press the eject button in a negative way, that darn suicide, sadly. And it's like, oh, damn. Like, it's that bad. Like, oh, damn. Ouch.
Well, with Melody Clouds, binaural beats actually helps in a number of ways when it comes to that, because one of the things that I picked up very quickly and learned was your brain is an electrical appliance. Every thought, every direction, every emotion is an electrical impulse. We know this because you can measure it by an EEG. We know what frequency your thoughts are. We know what frequency your emotions are. So by using binaural beats, and I'll explain to you real quick how this works, you take one frequency, it goes in the left ear. Another frequency, slightly different, goes in the right ear. Your brain, whether it has to or whether it just does, it makes a third frequency. And that third frequency is the key, because now you can manipulate people's mood. You can manipulate, in a way, you can manipulate their well-being, their sense of well-being. You can put people to sleep much easier with these frequencies. I've got a frequency that I use almost every night, 432 megahertz. If I've only listened to about 15 seconds of this track of music, because the 16th second knocks me out, I am out like Tyson hit me. Okay. It's over. And my wife was like, well, what am I supposed to do because she doesn't hear the frequencies when I'm using this. But yeah, it is crazy how well, our tagline is take charge of your mood. Take charge of your mood. If you're sad and you don't want to be, you can do something about that. It turns out that, you ever heard someone say, oh, he's in the zone, or they're in the zone, right? It turns out the zone is an actual place. You can enter the zone anytime you'd like. You can exit the zone at will. And it makes your focus and it makes your concentration a million times better when you can take charge of that, when you can take control of that.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. So I was like putting this app together, my man, especially acquiring probably rights from different things. And if I'm not mistaken, you're actually, at least at one point, trying to get some Christian music as an option for some folks out there too. So how's it like? Because you got over 16,000, I guess, different tracks, or at least that's just the
Oh,
audiobook
we have
options.
18,000 right now, 18,000 audiobooks alone. We have
Hmm.
8,000 hours of binaural beats,
Hmm.
solfeggio frequencies. Solfeggio is a little bit different. We can talk about that. Solfeggio frequencies. I have reading our Aesop's fables, Gary Meyer. He is a Hall of Fame voice, disc jockey. The guy's got a voice that you just, it makes you weep listening to these stories from Aesop. Aesop was a slave during Greek and Roman times, and he taught Plato and Socrates. They learned at his feet. So we're talking stories that we have carried with us through history. The fox and the grapes, the ass and the lion skin, the woman and her hen. These stories have been around since you and I were children, way before that. When our grandfathers, our grandparents, they grew up learning about Aesop's fables and why we do the things that we do. And I felt like they needed to be included here. Nature sounds. We have probably another 8,500 to 9,000 hours of nature sounds. And pretty soon, with our app, you'll be able to build your own environment. So you will be able to go in and create the nature sound, the sounds that relax you and put you to sleep. So I'm very excited of where we are right now, but I'm more excited about actually where we're heading in a very short period of time.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. And that's freaking huge, indeed. And like, my goodness, 8,000 hours of binaural beats, like, dude, that's freaking huge, man. And
Yeah.
it's like even great because if I'm not mistaken, like, it basically got something for everybody still.
Really, it does. I mean, if your issue is that you would like to maybe lose some weight, well, we have guided meditations that are going to help you in that weight loss journey. Okay. If you are having trouble sleeping, I have probably 15, 16 different tracks for you to choose from that is going to, that will help you get into a REM sleep and stay there, be refreshed from that. Um, Enlightenment, if you're feeling uneasy about decisions that you've got to make. A lot of my customers come to me and they go for a sense of enlightenment where they can actually make those critical decisions. I mean, we built this with everybody in mind. And by the way, there are other options for people. I mean, there are other apps that do similar things to what Melody Clouds do. But one of the two things, I promise my customers two things. Number one, we charge $2.99 for the first 60 days. I want you to try it, okay? We're dating. I want you to see what I have to offer. At the end of the $2.99, at the end of the 60 days, it goes to $5.99. Now, that's about a third to a quarter of what other services are charging, because I figured out that you don't need to charge each individual a ton of money in order to make a viable business. Okay, that's number one. Number two is everyone out there seems to be very interested in personal security, keeping their information secure, right? I'm very sensitive to that. I was an information security specialist in the Army. And so this is the pledge. This is what I did. I refuse to let any third party have access to any information of my customers, not from me, but while you're using my app. So while you're in the iPhone app, the Google app, no one is able to access your personal information from your cell phone. So I go one step beyond. Not only am I not selling your information, I'm protecting it. I'm keeping people away from it while you're using this app.
Beautiful and honorable. You love to see it, indeed. Any thoughts of you possibly selling the app in the future?
To be honest with you, no, I'm having way too much fun. I get to meet people like you. I get to meet people all the time write me. I feel very important, to be honest with you. There's a sense for me of, really doing something with this business. I own other businesses. There's a sense with this business of me actually contributing. And I hope that for every single person that listens to this podcast, you are able to experience at least once in your life the ability to contribute. That taste in your mouth is addictive. You really want to pitch in, you really want to help. And that's what Melody Clouds has really done for me. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that if someone didn't come along with an offer I couldn't refuse, well, I couldn't refuse it. I mean, if someone came to me with an offer I couldn't refuse and could take this much further than I could, well, yeah, we would make a deal.
Yep, sounds good indeed. Gotta love the honesty indeed. So speaking of making deals, my man's a serial entrepreneur, and I know my man's app helps folks to probably decompress from all the setbacks they've had to deal with life. So what would you consider your biggest setback? It doesn't even have to be in business, it could be in life in general that actually sets you up for success.
Yeah, that's a great question. And there is one top of mind. I mean, so Melody, this is the second version of Melody Clouds. The first version of Melody Clouds, I paid well over $50,000 to have it developed, and along with 2 apps. I was going, my middle daughter, she earned a scholarship to play volleyball. And we were going in for her contract, to sign her contract to go to school. And I get a phone call from one of my customers. My website has been hacked, they said. Well, come to find out, it wasn't the website that was hacked. It's a semi-long story, but come to find out, I had to start over from scratch. And I had to make a decision that night. Am I going to start over? And am I going to push forward? And am I going to do what it is I set out to do? Or am I going to, take that whooping? And, I got none of that money back, Dom. That money was gone. It is gone. My wife was not happy about that. That money's gone. It will never come back. But I had to make a decision that night. Do I get off the canvas? Do I take the 10 count? And do I step forward with my dukes up? And I step forward, my dukes up, and we are in 148 countries right now. We are translated in 200 different languages today, and we're going strong.
There you go. Sounds like a man's been fraught with one of the multiple learning experiences, expensive learning experiences.
Could have been more. That really could have cost me. It really could have cost me even more money, Dom. But you're right. And look, I bought an education. It won't happen again. I'll tell you that. It will not happen again. I've consolidated the things that I needed to consolidate. I trusted people. You have to trust people in business. You just do. We're in this together, okay? And if you can't look to your right and to your left and trust the people that you're around, then you're in a bad environment. You're in the wrong environment, dude.
That's what I'm talking about indeed. That's what I'm talking about indeed. So my goodness, so since you've been on a few podcasts promoting the good work that you're doing to help folks stay on those good old puffy cumulus clouds with all the melodies, is there a question that you wish folks would ask you more often when you're on these podcasts?
Yeah, again, man, you are on a roll. There's very good questions. Yeah, really, I do. I don't get asked enough where this goes. How far does this go? I'm dying to tell people some of the other things that I have, in my back pocket, ready to unleash on the world. One of those things is we're going to be adding 8,000 episodes of old time radio. I'm an old time radio fan. It's very relaxing to me to get in the car and to drive and to listen to The Shadow and to listen to, you know what I mean? I like listening to The Twilight Zone. I like stories where I can picture in my head what's going on, and it's not spoon-fed to me like television does. But it is my goal to have Melody Clouds on every continent, which we're almost there, and to bring this to as many countries as I possibly can. I would really like to get to 200 countries if it's possible.
No, it's possible. It's possible indeed. It's definitely going to happen indeed. It's like, hey, 144. Shoot, that just means what? It's another 66 to go.
Right, right. Yeah. So, it's a little more difficult than, you know what I mean? I've gotten some very fortuitous partnerships. We're going to be forming more partnerships as well with different health organizations, veterans organizations, rehab facilities, senior retirement communities. I'm hoping that a lot of businesses, a lot of corporations will add us to their benefits package as a mental health, as a relaxation tool, because we are priced for that. That's really what we're priced for. We want to help as many people as we possibly can. And by the way, I've put my money where my mouth is. I think anyone would agree. I've put my money where my mouth is. I don't need to charge someone $30 for the same. Actually, I have more content than anybody of my competitors as far as I know, but I put my money where my mouth is because I found a way to do this without breaking the bank for a lot of people that need this.
That's what I'm talking about indeed. That's what I'm talking about indeed. So my goodness, so since you're a veteran and entrepreneur, no less, any advice for your fellow veterans out there, maybe looking to get into entrepreneurship, especially if they're fresh off of duty?
For sure. Look, I always tell people, you don't take no for an answer. No needs to be removed from your vocabulary. You can hear not now. You can hear not yet. But what you cannot hear is no. And let me tell you something. The people closest to you are going to be your biggest cheerleaders, some of them, but some of them are going to be your biggest naysayers. Okay? Haterade is cheap. Okay? A lot of people drink it. You're going to find some unsolicited advice you never even asked for, right? That is going to hurt your feelings. You need to take it in, and you need to feed on that. You need to learn to make that your mother's milk. And you need to every time someone tries to knock you down, you need to square your shoulders up and you need to push forward. And if you have trouble doing that, contact me. My email address is not hard to find because I can help you find that motivation to push a little harder, push a little more.
That's what I'm talking about indeed. That's what I'm talking about indeed. Definitely push a little more indeed, because the thing is, but funny enough, for those who may not know, the $50,000 education wasn't the only setback. My man's an author of 6 books, and if I'm not mistaken, at least 18,000 was dedicated to the first 2, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. Oh man, you did some research. Dom, you did some research. Listen. My first book was called Credit 101. I wrote a book on credit. I didn't know a damn thing about credit. Okay. That's how I learned about credit. I wrote the book so I would know about credit. When I finished that book, I was an expert. So I wrote the book and I spent $10,000 in publishing that book. Because unless you're Stephen King, no one is interested in publishing your book. Okay. Nobody wants to do it. So I did it. I took a ride and I gave $10,000 of my money. How much of that money do you think I got back?
Sadly, 0, right?
Yes. Sadly, you're right. I got $0 back on that. But guess what? I got a $10,000 education and I wrote another book. I said, oh, look, I can't end like this. This is embarrassing. It can't end like this. So I wrote Mortgage 101. And Mortgage 101 trained loan officers on the different types of mortgages so they were not trying to cram people into the same exact loan time after time after time. These are tools. It cost me $8,000, Dom, $8,000 of my hard-earned money to publish that book. The question is, how much of that money did I get back?
$2.
$0, Dom. $0. I did not sell one copy of that book to a private individual. It did become training material for loan, for mortgage companies. And I did make some money on that. But as far as selling a book the way that you normally sell a book, guess what? Your boy made $0. But it set me up because the education that I got was Credit 101, Mortgage 101. They came to you from the perspective of a professional in the credit and the mortgage business. And that's what I was missing. If I wrote a book, perhaps, if I wrote a book that really explained credit to the masses, explain credit the way our parents never explained credit to us, the way we were not allowed to learn about it in school, maybe that book would be able to earn me some of that money back. So I wrote a book called When Bad Credit Happens to Good People. And I put that book in the KDP program in Amazon. And that book cost me around $2,500 to publish. Did I make any money on that book? Oh, yes, I did. I made a lot of money on that book. Can I get an amen? I made a lot of money on that book. There were nights, there were times when my wife and I would come downstairs, rush to the computer, and we would look and see how that impacted our bank account. And buddy, let me tell you something. Trying that one thing, do it, keep just driving forward. I made far more than I ever lost on the previous two. And it taught me a very important lesson. If you will stand up, if you will put your dukes up, if you'll lean in, eventually that dam will break. You will cross the bridge. You will be successful. This is the place to do it.
Oh, that's right indeed. My man, Reverend Wade's preaching the good word, baby. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. And that's freaking amazing too. It's like, hey, sometimes you got to go through the good old learning experience. It's like, oh, I got to step through these Legos barefoot for a little bit, but I'll be all right.
No, I don't know a heavyweight champion that never took a punch. There is not one in existence. Even those that went undefeated, they got their bell rung. They got set aside for a 10 count. I don't know anybody in business that hasn't had some wins or losses. And if you show me someone that's never had a loss, we need to introduce the IRS to them. We need to investigate them seriously, because let me tell you something. It's almost, I can't say it's impossible, but it's very improbable that you're not going to suffer losses along the way. It's just inevitable. That's not the problem. It's how do you react? How are you going to react when that happens to you? What are you made of?
Oh, that's right indeed. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. My man's preaching the good word indeed. This is one of them episodes that's definitely hotter than fish grease. That's what I'm talking about. Indeed. So my goodness, if that fabulous book, When Bad Credit Happens to Good People, if it were a food, what would it be and why?
Cheesecake. Because man, victory is sweet. Victory is sweet, and I got fat on that thing, man. I'm telling you, it really, and it was substantive. It really did help a lot of people. I had people in my life come to me and say, why wasn't I not taught this back in high school? Why didn't we learn this in college? And the answer to that question is because it's illegal. We've passed laws. We've allowed our legislators, our senators and representatives to make laws to make it illegal for us to teach credit in high school and college. And that was a very bad move. So if you love your children, you will educate yourself and you will educate them on the things that you had to learn the hard way. you will find out how the credit system works, how to have a good credit score, what things do you need to do to become generationally wealthy. That's what you're going to do, because you'll have that talk with your kids, or you'll send them to sex education class. And it's important. I'm not saying it's not important, but it is far more important that you teach them about money and the management of money, because their lives depend on it. Their lives truly do depend on it.
That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Because, hey, ain't nothing wrong with sex ed, but hey, credit's definitely more important because sometimes if you fall asleep during sex ed, you might end up with bad credit with child support. Like,
I was sitting here trying to figure out where you go with this, but you're right. You said right. Look, at least, right. You don't fall asleep in the credit class, but you did fall asleep in sex ed. You're still covered. You'll make enough money to support that kid. Yes, yes, sir. Yeah.
That's
But
right.
the other way around, you fall asleep in the credit class, or you fail to educate yourself on credit, and you learn everything you need to know about sex ed. Now you're talking a recipe for disaster.
And then you'll be like, all right, let me just stay asleep. Let me just hibernate. It made the problem go away,
Do us
even
all
though
a
it
favor.
wouldn't.
Yeah. Why don't you just go back to sleep? Yes.
My goodness, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if you don't wake up tomorrow and you were 25 again, but you're still in the current year, what advice would you give to yourself?
25-year-old me living in 2023.
Yeah.
Man. Ooh, man. That would be a recipe for disaster. Man, I am so glad I grew up when I grew up. I'll be honest with you. I have children. I have a 22-year-old, I have an 18-year-old, and I have a 15-year-old. And I see some of the challenges that they face that I never had to face. I never had to suffer through some of the things that our children are having to go through right now. I was in a conversation with someone the other day, and he was complaining that, oh, my child doesn't know how to write a check. They don't know how to write in cursive. They don't know how to do this. They don't know how to do that. And I said, Ken, hold up. You're supposed to be the one. Why are you bragging about that? You're supposed to be the one teaching them these things. So if your child is walking around and not knowing how to cook a meal or wash a load of laundry, what are you doing with your time?
Mm-hmm.
So I got to tell you, I sit down with my kids. My kids know how entrepreneurial their father is. Their mother has a master's degree. She works for a great company. They get to see both sides of this. They get to see daddy. Well, if it ain't chicken and he's sucking feathers, if mom is the backbone. Mom is the one that she's hauling water every day. If it wasn't for Tracy Altman, there would be no Wayne Altman. I'll tell you that right now. I'd have given this up a long time ago. My wife is the most important thing. I say possession. She's not a possession, but the most important thing I possess is my marriage to my wife. And you talk about guarding that jealously. I guard that super jealous. So I would tell 25-year-old me, hey, you need to find this woman. Number one, quit your messing around, quit being a fool, and get to business faster than I actually did. I've been an entrepreneur for most of my life. But when I got out of the Army, I kind of bobbed and weaved a little bit trying to find my place. And I would have concentrating on finding that place a lot quicker than what I did.
There we go. Rock solid advice. That's right, indeed. That laser focus in that entrepreneurship, indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Speedy Gonzalez or Sonic the Hedgehog getting that piece. That's right, indeed. Don't be a turtle about it. That's right, indeed. Be a hedgehog about it.
Yep. Exactly.
That's right, indeed. So for those who need to be like a hedgehog and speed their way to Melody Clouds, the app, and all the other wonderful work that you're doing, what's the best way for folks to do so?
Wayne Altman at melodyclouds.com. That's my email address. I really would invite everybody to go and check this out. I do think that it would help the vast majority of people out there, everyone, music really does dictate a lot when it comes to our mood. Everybody has their jam. Everybody has, they have music that pumps them up. Everybody does that. Even silent movies were not silent. There was somebody at the front banging on the piano telling you, how are you supposed to feel about that film? Or, that workout. You can tell when someone goes to the gym and they go to workout, and then you can tell who's there to check out. The ones there to check out are listening to Air Supply. They're listening to, we're talking to the guys that there, or the ladies that are there to work out. They're listening to, heavy metal. They're listening to Def Leppard, whatever, but it's music to get their pump on. They're there for serious business. And the same when it comes to sleep or concentration and focus. And if you're suffering, if you're having any trouble with any of those things, or maybe you'd like to do them better, I do invite you, go to Melody Clouds. It's $2.99 for 60 days. And Dom, let me tell you something. This is very important. The app is free. You download that app. You can carry this with you wherever you want to go. All right. But the first thing I want you to notice is on the last page of the app, where your profile is, there's a red button that's bigger than any other button. And that button says unsubscribe. It's right there. You won't have to look for it. You will see it. If this isn't for you, God bless you. Find whatever it is for you. I'm not trying to take a dime from anyone who doesn't find value in this app.
There you go. Well, there you have it, folks. Check out the app. See what my man Wayne's doing with the app. Indeed, thousands upon thousands of tracks and hours to choose from to help you get better sleep. Maybe get rid of that tinnitus you got. Indeed, improve your situation. Indeed, that's right. Indeed, you might even feel like you got 8-pack abs afterwards. That's right. Indeed, he's got you covered like a blanket, y'all. That's right. Indeed. If I'm not mistaken, he's also got in multiple languages too for some of the fairy tales. And I hear it's freaking hilarious. So check it out like a library book, my friends. That's right, indeed. It'll be good for you indeed. So my goodness, any parting words before we close up shop, Wayne?
Well, look, I thank you very much. This has been a blast. Seriously, I've done 108, 9 podcasts now, and this has by far been one of my favorites. Thanks, man. Thanks.
If you're hearing this part of the episode, that means you're one cool individual. Thanks a bunch for tuning in, and if you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to share it with at least one other person in your network. Bonus points for 3. And be sure to check out the backlog too while you're at it, because there are hundreds of wonderful episodes to choose from as well.